Okay, let's dive in. Here's a statistic that kind of hits hard. 90% of startups fail. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah, that number, you see it cited a lot. Exploding Topics mentioned it. It's stark. Really a tough reminder of, the mountain you're climbing when you build something new.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, right? If you're building something now, is it like already heading for trouble silently? And you don't even see it coming. That whole silent startup killer idea, it's pretty chilling. I know I've definitely been there. I remember this one time I got so lost in the weeds, the technical side, chasing this one cool feature.
Right.
And I completely lost sight of why I even started that feeling, losing perspective.
Yeah.
It really hit home reading Sinek, about founders hitting rock bottom when they forget that core purpose.
Oh, absolutely. Forgetting the why isn't just like an emotional thing. It messes with your strategy, your focus, everything. It can send you way off track.
Exactly. So look, our goal today in this deep dive is simple. Arm you with knowledge. By the end of this, you'll know the 5 big startup killers, the main reasons they fail, and more importantly, some concrete ways to actually avoid them.
Yeah, we're going to pull back the curtain on the number one reason, and it might not be what you think.
Right. And we'll even get into a lesson from someone who, nearly went bankrupt, facing the hard stuff.
The kind of stuff Ben Horowitz talks about, right? Just how incredibly hard navigating those moments can be. The pressure.
Totally. So this is the deep dive.
Yeah.
We take the source material, we decode success, starting right from the ground up. And hey, if you're building something you believe is worth surviving, you should probably hit that subscribe button.
So today, we're unpacking those hidden traps, the things that kill startups often before they even get a real chance to scale. We've got insights from, a whole stack of stuff. Harvard Business School research, CB Insights postmortems, lessons from founders and writers like Ries, Eisenman, Sinek, Horowitz.
Okay. Let's jump right into it then. That biggest killer you mentioned.
Yeah.
The number one reason.
Straight to the top. Key killer, #1. No market need, basically. Building something nobody actually wants or needs.
Wow.
Yeah, analyses like the one from CB Insights, they consistently put this right at the top. Like 42% of failures blamed on this. UX Matters had it a bit lower, maybe 35%.
Yeah.
But either way, it's the champ.
42%. Wow. So it's not just about having a slick idea or some cool tech. The sources are all saying you have to be solving a real, painful problem for people.
Precisely. Eric Ries hammers this home in The Lean Startup, right? Build what people want, not what you think they want based on your own, brilliant idea.
But why do so many founders fall into this trap? It seems so basic.
Well, it usually comes down to skipping the validation step. It's easy to get excited about your solution, right? So you jump straight into building before you've really checked if customers actually have the problem you think you're solving. Ries uses that Kodak gallery example. They had the tech, sure, but they hadn't really validated if users needed photo sharing in that specific way back then.
Okay, so how do you avoid that? The huge blind spot, especially early on, before you've sunk a ton of time and money into it.
Validate. Early and often. Systematically. That's the key takeaway. Bundle talks about mapping out your critical assumptions first.
Assumptions like,
will people actually pay for this? Is the business model even profitable? Things that absolutely must be true for it to work. Then you prioritize them, which are riskiest, which are most critical. And then you design tests, experiments to actually check them.
Okay, test the assumptions. And the Lean Startup had that idea about experiments being your first product, right?
Yeah.
Don't wait for perfection.
Exactly. Get data now. Measure where you are, figure out what you need to learn, and design experiments specifically for that. It's part of what Ries calls innovation accounting.
Innovation accounting. So measuring if you're actually learning what works, not just tracking fluff.
Right. Measuring validated learning. Are you making real progress towards understanding what customers want and will pay for? Not just, how many people visited your landing page. Those vanity metrics don't tell you much.
So how do you do this validation on the cheap? Quickly.
Oh, there are great lean ways now. No-code prototypes are huge. You've got Webflow, Bubble, Adalo, platforms where you can build something testable, like an interface or a basic functional prototype, in hours or days, not weeks or months.
Right. Get real feedback fast.
Yeah. UX Matters mentions these specifically for testing the user experience quickly.
Or even simpler, right? Smoke tests. Just a basic website, maybe Wix or Squarespace, describing the product. See if people click buy or sign up for a wait list.
Bundle calls that gathering buyer intent intelligence before you build a single thing.
And social media too.
Absolutely. Share those prototype links, those simple landing pages you can whip up with Unbounce or Card on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever your audience is. Test your messaging. See what clicks. Literally, get signups.
Okay. And then there are tools to dig deeper.
Yeah, definitely. Analytics like Google Analytics or Hotjar to see how people interact with those prototypes. AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude can help with market analysis, refining your pitch. And then specific tools for like qualitative interviews, Conveo, Verve, or quick quantitative surveys, OnePulse, SurveyMonkey, lots of options.
Gotcha. Lots of ways to test before building. Is there anything else on market need?
Yeah, one final warning from the top 5 reasons source. Beware of false product market fit.
False fit, how does that happen?
It can happen if you jump straight to paid marketing too soon. You might get users, sure, but are they coming because your product is amazing or just because you paid to shove an ad in front of them? It clouds the picture, makes it hard to know if the demand is real or just manufactured by your ad spend.
Okay, so the core lesson for Killer #1, really check that people want and need what you're building. Validate it rigorously before you go big. Okay, what's number 2?
Key killer, #2, running out of cash. Or just, poor cash management. Right behind market need, CB Insights says this accounts for about 29% of startup failures.
Seems obvious, right? Running out of money, game over. But it's usually more complicated. Like, revenue coming in doesn't automatically mean you're safe.
Exactly. Revenue isn't profit. You can bring money in the door, but be spending it even faster. Negative cash flow. And a huge culprit here is something called premature scaling.
Premature scaling.
Yeah.
Like growing too fast, too soon.
Yeah. Rushing to scale up before your actual business model is proven and viable.
Like hiring a massive team right after you get funding, or opening offices everywhere.
That's exactly it. The Top 5 Reasons article warns about that specifically, that post-funding excitement leading to bad spending decisions. Costs balloon, you hire way ahead of actual proven revenue, maybe you try expensive international expansion too early. It just drains your cash super fast, especially if your basic unit economics, like how much it costs you to acquire and serve one customer versus how much they pay you, aren't profitable yet.
Okay, so the tip isn't just have money, it's manage it super carefully.
Yes. Focus on what Bundle calls viability validation. Can you actually build a profitable, sustainable business? Test your pricing, validate your cost structure. Do the numbers actually add up?
And practically speaking, how do founders stay on top of the money day to day?
You got to monitor your burn rate, like constantly. How much cash are you burning through each month? While the sources talk about it through concepts like innovation accounting, best practice is probably checking your cash flow and burn rate, maybe even weekly.
Weekly? Wow.
Yeah, know exactly how much cash you have, how fast it's going out, and how much runway that gives you, how long until you hit zero. And resist that urge to spend big just because the bank account looks flush after a funding round.
Right. Cash is fuel. Know your fuel level and consumption rate. Got it. Killer #3.
Killer #3, not the right team. Or tied to that, poor execution. The people side is massive. CB Insights found not the right team was cited in 23% of failures. And disharmony on team investors, another 13%. Adds up.
Makes total sense. A brilliant idea means nothing without the right people to actually build it and make it happen.
Absolutely. Willow Think makes this point really strongly. Great ideas fail all the time because the team or the execution wasn't there. Execution is what scales, not just charisma, not just cool tech. Think about McDonald's. It's not fancy burgers, it's the system, the execution.
And execution.
Yeah.
It's tied deeply into the company culture, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Culture is basically what execution looks like every single day. It's the choices the team makes. A strong culture, it helps turn big challenges into manageable checklists. People know what to do. A weak culture, you get confusion, delays, people dodging responsibility. Tom Eisenman's work also points this out. The people are central. If you lack experience or trust or teamwork, you get these invisible cracks that just spread.
Okay, so how do you build that dream team, foster that execution-focused culture?
Well, Willow Think suggests making execution itself a core competency, something you actively build. It's less about just raw talent, maybe, and more about shared commitment, clarity on what you're doing. And Simon Sinek's ideas are super relevant here.
How about the why?
Yeah, build your culture on shared values, shared beliefs, your why. Don't just hire for skills, hire people who genuinely believe in what you're trying to do. Trust is everything. It lets people take risks, push things forward. He uses examples like Shackleton's crew or companies like Costco or Bridgeport Financial, where That deep belief and trust is just core to how they operate.
Hire for belief, not just the resume. Makes sense. And Ben Horowitz talks a lot about management being key too, right?
He really does. He emphasizes training your team, not just the job skills, but crucially, management training. Good managers set clear expectations. They make sure information flows properly. He's big on well-structured one-on-one meetings and stresses they should be the employees' meeting, focused on their needs and blockers.
And that point Horowitz makes about loyalty. It flows from leadership down to the employees, making sure they have great managers supporting them. Wow. Okay, building a team to last. Killer, #4.
Key killer, #4. Bad timing or failure to pivot. Getting the timing wrong. That can sink you. CB Insights picks product mistimed at 13%. And then there's not changing course when you needed to. Failure to pivot is 7%, and pivot gone bad is another 10%. So yeah, timing and adaptability.
Being too early seems weird as a killer, though. Isn't being first supposed to be an advantage?
Being early is good, yeah, but being too early, that's a problem. Sources like top 5 reasons and top 20 reasons give examples. Like, Vivino needed smartphones to be common for their wine app to really work. Calxita's server tech needed a broader ecosystem. Sometimes the market just isn't ready, or the tech isn't mature, or the infrastructure isn't there.
So you need to be early, but not so early that the world hasn't caught up yet. And if you are too early, or if your first idea just isn't working, that's where pivoting comes in.
Exactly. And the lean startup defines a pivot really clearly. It's not just flailing around randomly, it's a structured change in strategy. You form a new hypothesis because your old one got busted, and you test the new one.
What are the signs, the warnings that you need to pivot?
Rees points to things like your experiments constantly invalidating your core assumptions. Or you see diminishing returns, like you keep trying things to get more users activated, but the needle just isn't moving. That activation rate stays stubbornly low. That's a huge red flag that your fundamental approach might be wrong.
Okay, so the tip is, see the signs and actually be willing to change course. Don't just stick with a failing idea.
Absolutely. Sticking with a bad idea is incredibly expensive, drains cash, burns out your team. The top 20 reasons source says it flat out. If traction is flat, if your assumptions are wrong, you gotta pivot.
And there are different kinds of pivots, right? Like changing who your customer is or how you reach them or the tech.
Yeah, the lean startup outlines several types. But making any pivot work, it takes clear strategic thinking, grounded in that validated learning we keep coming back to. You can't just pivot on a whim.
Pivot or perish. Or pivot and run out of cash anyway if you don't manage it right. They all seem connected.
Oh.
Okay, last one. Killer, #5.
Key killer, #5. Lack of focus or burnout. This one hits the founders, the team, right where they live. CB Insights data shows loose focus at 13% of failures and burnout at 8%.
This feels really personal. Lack of focus. How does that kill a company?
Well, distraction is just deadly for momentum in a startup. As the Sage Advice UK piece points out, poor time management feeds right into this. There are always a million things you could be doing. If you're not focused on the vital few, you just spin your wheels and go nowhere.
In the journey itself?
Yeah.
It's just relentless, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's a marathon, 100%, not a sprint. And that constant pressure, the crazy long hours, it leads to burnout for a lot of founders. One source, the silent startup killer, put the number at something like 72%.
72%. Wow, that's huge. But maybe not surprising, given that whole hustle culture thing you sometimes see glorifying 100-hour weeks.
Exactly, those unrealistic expectations. Major contributor to burnout.
So how do you fight these? Focus and burnout.
For focus, it's about ruthless prioritization. Know what's urgent, know what's important, use tools and techniques. Sage Advice and Silent Startup Killer mention things like daily time blocking, having weekly goal reviews. Simple stuff, but it keeps you on track.
Time blocking, weekly reviews. Okay, simple but effective. And for burnout?
Recognize it's not some badge of honor. It's a serious warning sign. You absolutely have to prioritize your own well-being. Eisenman, Silent Startup Killer, they all stress setting boundaries. Work and life, schedule real breaks, take actual time off, and the basics, sleep, exercise, nutrition, don't neglect them. And get support mentors, coaches.
Sounds like taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's essential if you want to actually finish the marathon.
Totally. And there's a mental tool here too, drawing from Eisenman and Sinek. Reframe how you think about failure. Don't see setbacks as like proof you're terrible. See it as tuition. You're learning how not to do things. Like Edison finding thousands of ways not to make a light bulb before he found the one that worked.
That's a powerful mindset shift. Changes your relationship with the inevitable bumps in the road. Yeah, thinking about all 5 killers, it really hammers home that idea. You're not just building a product, you're solving a painful problem, hopefully, and doing it profitably.
Right. That brings together the market need, the financial viability, and the discipline needed for execution and staying power.
So the big five: no market need, running out of cash, not the right team or poor execution, bad timing or failure to pivot, and lack of focus or burnout. We've hit on some really key themes running through all the sources.
Yeah, validated learning, disciplined execution, building that strong team culture based on trust and belief, resilience, focus, all crucial.
And we've seen how these ideas pop up in key books, right? The Lean Startup, Why Startups Fail, Echoes of 0 to 1 and Building Value, Cynics, Start with Why, Horowitz's The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
And some quotes really capture it, like Eric Ries saying, "Success is not delivering a feature, it's learning how to solve the customer's problem."
Or Ben Horowitz, though, just stating the obvious but essential truth: hard things are hard.
Yeah. And Simon Sinek, "Why is your purpose, cause, or belief? Money is a result."
That last one, it loops right back to my story at the start about losing the why. It really does feel foundational, doesn't it?
It seems to tie everything else together, yeah.
So we want to hear from you listening. You're building something or even just thinking about it. What's one painful lesson you've learned? Or maybe one you're worried about facing? Let us know.
Yeah, comment with your number one fear as a founder. Maybe that's something we can dig into in a future deep dive.
And tag a co-founder.
Yeah.
Or just a friend who needs to hear this stuff today. And hey, if this was valuable, take a screenshot, share it on social with #DeepDiveLessons. We'd love to see it. Maybe give you a shout out.
Seriously, if you want to boost your odds, build something that lasts and scales. Subscribe. Get these deep dives every week. It's about understanding what it really takes.
Okay, so we've mapped out the main failure points based on data, based on experience, giving you tactical ways to spot them, hopefully avoid them.
We've seen it's this mix, right? Strategy, validation, team, execution, adaptability, and just sheer personal discipline.
But here's a final thought to leave you with. We talked about execution, validation, team, all critical. But what's underneath it all? That why? Your purpose. Sinek says money is just a result, not the cause. So could it be that focusing relentlessly on why you're building this and making absolutely sure everyone on your team deeply believes in that same why, could that be the single biggest factor in whether you survive the storms that will come?
It suggests that maybe that core belief, that intangible why, might actually be the most resilient part of the whole thing.
Definitely send it to you on as you build. Okay, before we go, 3 fast actions you can take right now today based on this.
1, write down your single biggest challenge right now. Your startup idea, execution, just one thing.
2, pick one lesson from today. Just one. Maybe validation, maybe checking your burn rate, maybe time blocking. Commit to actually applying it this week.
And 3, share this deep dive. Send it to one person you know who's building something right now. They might need to hear it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.